This is it. 7 days. That is all the time left on the clock before President Donald Trump's most serious ultimatum yet. It could either change the course of this war, or ignite it into something far more catastrophic. Welcome back. If you're new here, subscribe right now because the story is moving by the hour. You cannot afford to miss a single update. Just this past Monday, Trump posted on Truth Social. He claimed the U.S. is in serious discussions with a new, more reasonable regime in Iran. He claimed great progress has been made to end the war. But then came the threat, the most extreme yet. He warned that if a deal is not reached and the Strait of Hormuz is not immediately open for business, the U.S. will act. He said the U.S. will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells and Karg Island. He also mentioned possibly all desalination plants. Let that sink in. Trump is not just threatening Iran's military. He is threatening to destroy the infrastructure that keeps Iranian civilians alive. Their power grid, their oil economy, and the desalination plants that supply clean drinking water to millions of ordinary people. International law experts and UN officials have reacted with alarm. Legal experts call Trump's threat textbook collective punishment and a war crime. A professor of international law at the University of Manchester said, "You can't deliberately harm an entire civilian population to pressure its government." The White House insists the U.S. military will always act within the law, but they've made clear that Trump has capabilities beyond Iran's wildest imagination and is not afraid to use them. Now, here's something critical about this April 6 deadline. It is not the first one. On March 22, Trump threatened to strike Iran's power plants. He gave Tehran just 48 hours. Then, roughly 12 hours before that deadline, he delayed by 5 more days, citing good and productive conversations. On March 26, he extended again, this time by 10 full days, claiming the delay came at Iran's own request. So will April 6 be the real line in the sand, or just another extension? That is the question every military analyst, diplomat, and oil market trader is trying to answer. On the ground, the military buildup is unlike anything seen in this region since the Iraq War. The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit has arrived, 2,500 Marines and sailors, loaded with transport aircraft, strike fighters, and amphibious assault vehicles. They are now joined by the 82nd Airborne Division, the most elite paratrooper unit in the world, ready to deploy anywhere on Earth within 18 hours. Fox News and CBS News confirm U.S. Special Operations Forces have also arrived, including Navy SEALs and Army Rangers, giving the Commander-in-Chief precision strike options that go far beyond anything in the air. Campaign so far. One of the most dramatic options on the table sounds more like a Hollywood thriller than a military operation: the physical seizure of Iran's nuclear material. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told a congressional briefing that the U.S. may need to physically secure nuclear material inside Iran, saying, "People are going to have to go and get it." Reports say the White House is weighing a special forces operation to locate roughly 1,000 pounds of highly enriched uranium buried in underground Iranian nuclear sites. The plan involves neutralizing the perimeter, extracting engineers to clear tunnels, loading uranium into secure caskets, and flying it out under full air cover. Military sources say such an operation could theoretically be completed in under a week, but would carry enormous risk. It would require complete air supremacy over Iranian territory while under enemy fire. It would be the first time in history the U.S. has attempted to remove a nuclear program under active combat conditions. Over the past weekend, Iran struck Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, injuring roughly 24 U.S. service members, mostly with traumatic brain injuries. This was one of the most serious breaches of American air defenses since this war began. Yemen's Houthis also entered the conflict on Saturday. They fired a ballistic missile at Israel, and Iran's Revolutionary Guards warned they would target American and Israeli college campuses in the Middle East. This was in retaliation for Israeli strikes on the Iran University of Science and Technology in Tehran. Yet despite all this firepower and defiance, the Pentagon insists Operation Epic Fury is ahead of schedule. Over 11,000 targets have been hit. Iran has lost roughly 150 ships. Its air force is nearly gone. Its air defenses are largely destroyed. U.S. aircraft are refueling directly over Tehran. The regime's top leadership has been eliminated, including the head of the Revolutionary Guards Navy. He was killed in an Israeli strike last week. A hardline replacement has already been appointed, a signal that the regime, though wounded, is not broken. Iran's diplomatic posture is equally defiant. Its foreign ministry spokesperson called the U.S. 15-point peace proposal unrealistic, illogical, and excessive, and said Iran's parliament is now reviewing a possible exit from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, a dramatic escalation. This would remove Tehran from the last major legal framework, constraining its nuclear ambitions. Meanwhile, Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Kalibaf denied direct talks. He called Trump's public statements about progress psychological warfare designed to manipulate financial and oil markets. Behind the scenes, Pakistan is doing the heavy lifting diplomatically. After brokering an understanding that allowed 20 commercial ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, Pakistani officials are working overtime. Though a Pakistani security official confirmed it appeared unlikely there would be direct U.S.-Iran talks this week. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and other regional powers are all part of the mediation framework. But the gap between Washington's demands and Tehran's counter-demands remains enormous. Washington demands no nukes, no uranium enrichment, missiles gone, strait fully open. Tehran demands war reparations and sovereignty over the strait. Trump's response to all of this? Casual confidence mixed with barely concealed fury. At a business summit in Miami last week, he jokingly referred to the Strait of Hormuz as a Strait of Trump. He floated the idea of joint U.S.-Iranian control of the waterway as part of a final settlement. He also hinted that the United States might follow its Venezuela playbook and simply take control of Iran's oil entirely. The economic consequences of this war are already being felt everywhere. Oil benchmark Brent crude is on track for its steepest monthly rise on record. U.S. gas prices have hit $3.99 per gallon, the highest since 2022, and are approaching the $4 threshold that historically triggers consumer panic. JP Morgan has warned the economic shockwave will move from Asia westward in the weeks ahead. Fuel rationing is in place across South and Southeast Asia. Parts of Australia are seeing shortages. And now with the Houthis reactivated and threatening the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, global shipping faces a prospect of simultaneous choke points. Back in Washington, the political pressure is also building. A group of Democratic senators, led by Elisa Slotkin and Tim Kaine, sent a letter to the administration. They criticized its lack of strategic foresight and questioned why the U.S. is simultaneously threatening to obliterate Iran's oil infrastructure while quietly easing sanctions on Iranian oil. Republicans on Capitol Hill are split. Senator Lindsey Graham is publicly urging Trump to seize Cargill and end it, while others warn that any ground operation requires congressional consultation. 7 days. April 6, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The most dangerous week of this war begins now. Trump says the deal is basically done. Iran says there is no deal. Special forces are in position. Diplomats are still talking. The world's oil supply hangs in the balance. And a president who has already extended this deadline twice is asking the world to believe that this time, he means it. What do you think happens on April 6th, deal or obliteration? Drop your prediction in the comments right now. Hit like if this kept you informed, subscribe so you catch every update, and share this with someone who needs to understand what is really happening. We'll see you in the next one.